Welcome to Manufacturing Mavericks, a podcast where we showcase and celebrate exceptional people from across precision manufacturing who are boldly embracing new ways to improve their processes, grow their bottom lines, and ensure American manufacturing will thrive for generations to come. Welcome to this episode of Manufacturing Mavericks. I'm your host, Greg McHale, and I am very excited today to have a special guest on, Christina Collette from Final Frontier Manufacturing. I almost used the old name, Christina, because it recently rebranded. Christina is someone that I've gotten to know over the last several years, very involved with the NTMA and really the face of many different initiatives within the manufacturing industry, locally, nationally, and certainly someone who has been setting the pace and shaking things up in manufacturing. So Christina, fantastic to connect with you today.
Thank you so much for having me.
So Christina, I know that you've been involved in and fortunate to be in some very innovative companies over the years that are very forward-thinking, technology first, automation first, really some very disruptive companies. And obviously within manufacturing, that's a pretty unique opportunity to get that exposure. Before we get all the way to that point in the process, tell us, how did you actually get into manufacturing originally? What made you catch the bug?
I actually started out in banking and decided that after 5 years, that really wasn't the career path for me. It just didn't grab me. It wasn't my passion. And I just started to reach out to agencies and ask to introduce me to new industries and just kind of get my foot in and see what it was about and try something new. And one of the first places they sent me to was a manufacturing shop. And once I got there, it ignited something inside of me. And ever since then, it's captured me. It is something that I absolutely enjoy and have a passion for.
I love stories like this because I get to peel the onion really nicely, right? I love when it's not a straight line. You end up into it, almost by accident or, just through sort of randomly exploring things. So let's start with what was it about banking that just had you like, yeah, I need to do something else?
I think probably all of the numbers. And I went into banking because math was my favorite subject. And I thought it made sense, get into banking, Sure. Do accounting, it'll be great. And I was like, yeah, nope, this is not passionate for me.
That's actually kind of interesting that you loved math, but ended up hating numbers.
Very ironic.
It is. So you went into a manufacturing shop for the first time. And what was it that captivated you? Describe seeing that shop for the first time.
When I left banking, I was in management, and then going into trying out new industries, I told them just put me in like an admin position because I really just want to learn about an industry and see what the right fit is, and we can go from there. And so I started as an admin, which allowed me to walk around and need to talk to everybody in each of the departments. And that position lasted, I think, probably about maybe 2 or 3 weeks. They're like, okay, you don't belong as an admin. So another thing that kind of captured me as I was walking through the company was being able to see how there's so many different avenues and paths in order for a final product to come out. So many different departments and hands and techniques. And so there was a lot of room for observing processes. So I would walk around and look at that and ask a lot of questions. And I started to learn each of the departments starting from quoting to customer service to doing some of the graphics to setting up machines and actually producing product, doing quality, and just helping out in each of the departments to kind of see, okay, what part of this exciting company do I fit in? And once I just saw that there was just so many opportunities and so much to learn, that I was hooked. And that was it.
And that opportunity, Christina, to go through all the different departments like that, was that intentional? And structured from the perspective of the leadership in that company, or is that how it just happened to work out?
That's how I made it work out. I wandered, and if I saw that a department was short or, needed some help, had a lot of kind of backlog that was parts stacking up, then I was like, oh, you need a helping hand? I'll come in and help because I'd get to learn. Of course, they're not going to refuse the help. So it was my way of kind of inserting myself.
So really the sort of the do-it-yourself rotation program.
Yep. Which I adapted and kind of took that on going from company to company. I think that is such a useful and dynamic way for anybody to start with a company. I think when you hire, at some of the places I've worked at, it was a rule before you could be trained in the position you were hired for. You first had to spend some time in every other department. And that could be 30 minutes, it could be, a couple hours, but it's so invaluable to learn and have respect for the other departments that affect you and that you affect.
And so coming from not only banking, but also, you were already at the management level. So first of all, kudos for you on the humility to start at whatever level, that got you to learn the industry and then, work your way around the different opportunities around the floor. What were some of your perspectives on the state of technology and process as you came from banking and what you observed when you got into manufacturing?
Yeah, I got to see where, and I think this still stands true for a lot of companies, where whatever you struggled through and figured out and put into place as you were growing ends up kind of staying there. And you may tweak and improve here and there, but it's hard to step away from it and really relook at what you're doing and make big changes, right? And I think right now where our industry is pushing more and more people and companies to have to adapt a little bit quicker and more drastically, because if you aren't updating, addressing, and embracing, say automation and the newest technologies, then you end up obsolete. And so I did see a lot of areas where we were just doing things over and over the same way because the old phrase, we've always done it that way. Yeah. And so I was like, oh, there's lots of room to be changing things in here, which was really exciting. And that never stops. There's always room for continuous improvement.
Sure. And you said something really interesting there, Christina, at the outset, which was basically that as you are trying to grow fast, you sort of get stuck with whatever it was that you've been doing, right? Did I get that right? It basically, like, whatever your best practice is, as soon as you go to the gas pedal, you're living with that best practice.
Yep. Because it's comfortable and it's working. So why change it?
Right. But then sort of ironically, like, isn't it the growth that makes it so that thing doesn't work anymore? How does that play out? Like, does that limit growth? Does it just break the whole system? Or
I think for the most part, it limits growth. I think that's why a lot of companies find themselves struggling to break that ceiling for themselves, because their processes don't scale. And so that's one reason why you do need to relook at those all the time, right? It's that same mindset of when somebody's overwhelmed with too many things on their plate. And even if you bring in somebody new, they have a hard time training because it's just faster to do it myself. But
sure,
if you take the time to train, yes, it takes an extra hour out of your day, but then the ROI is so much greater in the long term. But it's really hard for people to see that.
What ends up being the straw that breaks the camel's back in that case? Is it that you get stuck at the same ceiling, or, what ultimately happens?
Best case scenario is you get stuck in the same, not without the ceiling going any higher. But worst case is you start to see yourself shrinking and losing business because of the fact that if you aren't doing it faster and better, which technology helps us to do that, then you're no longer competitive. You have to be continuously improving in order to stay competitive in this industry.
And of the companies that you've been able to be a part of throughout your manufacturing career, Christina? I mean, I know I'm familiar with at least two of them who, as I was saying earlier, I know are very continuous improvement oriented, automation first, tech first, figure it out. Was that always the case through your career, or did you start somewhere where it was a little bit more challenging than that?
In the beginning, it was a little bit more challenging, but I've been really purposeful in picking companies that at the top have that mindset and desire and willingness to listen to the voices within the company and suggestions. And even if every one of them isn't a win, they're willing to invest and try. So that is something I am purposeful and seek out in order to work at.
That is an amazing filter. And how do you do that? that's going to be a great piece of insight. How do you figure that out?
Through communication, right? So when I'm first getting to know somebody, it is asking just key questions about what are your top goals? What are the things you care about? How often are you updating your processes? When you have a team do you have a channel in which you take suggestions for improvements from the team? Stuff like that. So if they have anything in that area and they can talk to it versus, oh yeah, we have a bucket that you can put a suggestion card in, and that happens.
Looks just like the trash can. Yeah, looks exactly like the trash can.
It just has a label on it.
Yeah.
Then you can tell that what level they're at. And as long as they have the openness to it, then it's also my responsibility to help increase it and to optimize on that.
And how did you know to focus on trying to identify that? Is that a core personality trait? Did that come from the banking experience? Because that's pretty unique.
It's definitely a core unique personality trait that I have for sure. Even when I was in high school, I tried every single sport. I like to learn and try new things. And if I'm stuck doing, and that's another thing that deterred me away from banking, is it's very repetitive. It's the same thing. And if I'm stuck doing the same thing, I'm going to be bored and going to have to move on. And so that's one thing that's exciting about manufacturing is it's always changing. You're always seeing different parts. You're always getting new customers. You're always finding new processes and new materials and new tooling. And, there's always change in some way, shape, or form. And for companies that embrace modernizing, there's just that much more.
Yeah, good for you for building that detector early, because you can burn a lot of time doing the wrong things.
Yes.
If you haven't made that connection.
And it took going to one place that I didn't put the effort towards and realizing how important it was to me and that it just doesn't work without it.
That is a fantastic takeaway. So currently, I know that you are in a position that has almost unlimited opportunity for disruption and continuous opportunity. So tell us the story of Final Frontier.
The goal here is, and what attracted me to be a part of this team, is the goal of truly, you hear modernizing, right? And there's so many different definitions for even that one word.
It's not a new version of Job Boss.
Yeah.
More than that.
Yes, it's so much more. And it truly aligned with my definition. It was not just automation, not just new technology and training and stuff like that. It was also truly changing what a machine shop looks like and how we think. And what does that look like? And how can we help others to also embrace this and support them so that we can help manufacturing within our community to be stronger. And so that for me was so close to who I am at the core. I'm an advocate at heart. That is who I am in so many areas of life, not just in my professional life. And so having individuals that have that same core and passion to help others, not just our own business, is what brought me here.
that level of modernization and the uniqueness of the approach that you all are taking there. I mean, what are like the guiding principles? Like, how do you tear it down to the studs and build it up from there to explain what that modernization really looks like and how you ultimately see that benefiting others?
Yeah, we'll take a small piece of it, right? At how we look at our customers and how we look at the business coming in and having a different approach where there has been so much relationship based and even fear based, in a lot of the actions that are taken at the top level within a company of we do whatever it takes for this customer because we've allowed them to be too much of our business, or it's just we have the relationship, you do whatever they ask, you're constantly doing flips and so on and so forth. And that was the way of our industry. And the individuals that were in place doing the purchasing and stuff like that, right? That era. But things have changed. And so really just changing a mindset, even as a beginning step of how you're going to increase your business and bring in more customers and assist and have a little bit more say and strengthen who you are and confidence in what service you are providing versus just saying yes and doing whatever the customer asks. I mean, it's hard to even get your reps to your buyers to even get on a phone conversation with you, much less be able to build a relationship. But if we're constantly evolving and understanding what that new era, the new generation coming in is looking for and adapting to that and helping educate others how to navigate that alone right there is a very impactful step.
Interesting. And so is the right way to think about this, Christina, basically saying, look, the way buyers operate today is very different than it was X years ago. X might not be that long, 15, 10, 20 years ago.
I mean, 10, 5, 10.
Yeah, it's changing fast, right? That's almost that's almost your point is like it's really changed from 20 years ago. But even in the last 5 or 7, it's changed pretty significantly too.
Yes. And that's just it. We keep on talking about it. This is the biggest changeover in history, right?
Mm-hmm.
Of the generational change hasn't been so drastic as it is today. And with that, our habits, mindsets, skill sets, everything is changing at a much higher level than anybody has ever dealt with before. And therefore, the level of adaptation and change within our companies need to be meeting that as well.
So we're talking about re-engineering everything, or where does it start? Where does it end?
But you truly need to know your business, be efficient in how you are running your business, and be looking at what those new technologies are. I'll take an example even from the place I worked at previously. How parts were done before were through 2 lathe ops and 3 vertical mill ops, right? Mm-hmm. That's 5 different setups. And each setup, on an average, I mean, a quick setup is an hour. So anywhere for 1 to 4 hours, right, is a setup. Mm-hmm. And you multiply that by 4. But then if you've got the new technology, the new machine, and it's a one and done, even if it took 2 hours to set it up, it's a one and done. Right. And you're not having all this other changeover. And therefore, even though the cost of that machine is more and you're paying the employee more, one, that employee can run more than one of those machines, depending on the cycle time, your cost is lower. You're able to give a lower pricing to your customer and you're more competitive. And you get stuff off your machines faster. Your output is faster.
If you were trying to parallelize any of that in the old case, you need a fraction of the people too, right?
Yeah,
by comparison.
One of the things, I've talked on different panels about automation as well within associations. And I think one of the biggest questions I get asked from other companies is, we don't have the same budget that you do. How do we even start with that? We can't afford that $1 million machine. What do we do? And it is starting with your data. It is knowing that what you are quoting, you're making a profit on. You truly are. And knowing your metrics of what is coming off of your machines and what your output, what you should be getting off of those on an hourly, daily basis, and being able to see that type of information. That's how you know if you have open capacity. That's how you know if you're actually making a profit or if you're paying to keep that customer. If you're paying to keep a customer, get rid of them. Make room for the customers that are paying. And those don't take as much of a capital investment. And you have a quick ROI from that. But then it's also educating yourself and learning how to digest that data. What does this data mean? And how do I utilize it? And how does it affect my company? Those are small investments versus running straight to buying a new machine.
Sure. And then, so, if I'm that same shop that's like, hey, I don't have your budget, I can't buy that machine. And then I imagine the conversation is like, well, what kind of parts are you making and for who? Right. So there's like, if you're doing the old 3-axis stuff, you're right. If you're doing, higher value premium work, well, that's also got to be part of the equation too, right? Is like, how are you set up from a sales side? Like, who are you trying to sell to? What kinds of work are you trying to win? And are you equipped to even do it?
And what skill sets do you have in your building? And are you taking the time to get to know all of your employees and all of their skill sets? And are you optimizing on that instead of structuring your company with set titles and trying to plug them with individuals that may not be a complete circle going into, a square peg going into a circle hole. It's optimize on what that individual is. And if that means making a new title, a new position in order to optimize and help them to grow, it's a win-win on both sides and you get a much higher benefit out of that.
Sure. And so like I'm literally imagining, I'm trying to transform a shop in my head through your lens, right? Because that's ultimately what this is about is like, hey, you know what, Christina, I buy in to this approach, and I want to go through this transformation. So first is like, I have to know, like, what do I actually make money on and what's killing me? Am I buying parts or am I selling parts? Like, let's answer that question first. That's going to help my margin. That's going to help my profitability. That's going to help my cash flow. Okay, maybe now I'm in the position to start making better investments from an equipment standpoint where the parts that I'm doing well with, I can do even better with by reducing number of setups, improving cycle time, reducing, the coefficient of labor required to produce a given part. But I also kind of have to reinvent my sales process for the types of work I'm going after and how I represent myself to the industry and who I'm targeting as prospective buyers. So now I'm into marketing. I mean, this is like extreme makeover kind of stuff, isn't it?
I mean, it is because, how many shops do you know do marketing or sales?
Yeah, right. Yeah. Are they two different things?
Most machine shops do not have those functions. They don't invest in that. More of their business comes from word of mouth and or their customers grew and therefore they grew.
And I know you and I have talked about this topic at some NTMA events in the past, especially around sales and marketing investments. But I mean, isn't this, what we're talking about, this transformation required how you see what your job actually is to be a relevant precision manufacturer in 2025? Isn't this a lot of the reason we see a lot of people talk about the number of shops is decreasing across the country?
Yes.
I actually think that's a good thing.
Yeah, I agree. I do agree. I think it'll make it stronger, more stable. And the fact is it did work back in the day. Companies were very successful doing it that way. It's just not the way anymore. The way is to reach your targeted audience, your engineers, the people that are going to start speccing you in or calling you or wanting you to do their prototypes, is social media. It's not a phone call. It's not a conversation. Right. They don't want to meet up. They don't want to go to dinner or lunch.
No donuts.
Yeah,
Well, everyone loves donuts.
Yeah. They want to see your videos. They
Right.
want social media. They want your
Right.
stories. They want to hear about you in their language.
For sure. I mean,
And
it's the why first, right? Like why would I want to work with XYZ shop, right? I want to see coolant blasting through a window. I want to see cool parts. I want to see cool tools, and I want to see happy people that look like they're going to be a great partner for me.
I mean, I'll say we did a booth at the Space Symposium last month. And what made us extremely unique and got a lot of compliments on was my statement has been at multiple companies. Anytime we bring in a potential customer into the building, it's 100% success rate. But it's very hard, especially when all your customers aren't local, to get them into the shop. And when you're at a show, you're not getting them into your shop. So we did a VR tour through the shop in the different departments and did a really cool video. We put the camera in a tool holder and put it through the machine. It grabbed the attention and it showed through our actions that we truly are focused on being a modern shop and we embrace technology.
That is a great move. Well done.
Thank you.
So if I'm one of these shops and I'm literally staring at this going, man, I don't know if I have it in me to do this reinvention. I mean, what are like the couple things you would tell somebody to get started with, or the simplest things that are going to have the biggest impact? Because it's I'm signing up for, if I'm a legacy shop, and legacy means a lot of different things, but let's say I'm a pretty good business and I really want to be like what you're describing. What am I signing up for? What does it look like? How do I get some quick wins that make me feel like I want to transform my business over the next 5 years, 7 years?
With, as you mentioned in the beginning, I'm extremely involved in multiple associations and groups around manufacturing. One of the biggest benefits that you can get out of going to some of the networking events, being a part of an association, is talking to your peers that are doing it and finding out how their path was. Go tour one of those shops. Even our MTMA here will do shop tours so that we can help our community to see what is possible and have those conversations. The wonderful thing about being involved with associations is it's not, this is my secret, can't let anybody look, can't anybody see.
Right.
We're all
right.
very helpful to each other, and it makes it a lot less scary when you see it working.
I mean, there is more than enough work for as many shops as you're ever going to meet at a field event or a trade show, right?
Yes.
There's plenty to go around. So sort of get out there, really learn from the peer group about what others are doing, how they're being successful. Then I'm probably looking at some investments, right? You talked about equipment, you talked about automation, you talked about software. I know that you are very innovative at using tools. I heard a sound, by the way, I've never heard from a manufacturer in the background on a podcast, and that was Slack.
Sorry about that.
No, I mean, it's great because it's like, a lot of manufacturers would be like, what is Slack? And, in the software world, we've been living in that thing for 10 years. It's just how it's always been. But learning about even the simple tools that are out there and why people use them makes a massive difference.
Yes. And it is amazing. Here at the shop, we have multiple different generations here, people that have been here for 20 years to people that are, been here 2 months. And the one thing I will say that has been, and a lot of it is culture based, right? When you start from the top, you kind of feed it down, is that they are embracing a lot of the changes we bring in with software and stuff like that, which gives us good data to be able to review. And they like being able to be a part of it and see it and know that they're impacting that as well.
And it's funny, we joke about Slack. I have to tell you this quick story. When we launched our product in 2020, we had a Slack integration, and it was because it was how we tested Are we getting the right events? What are we seeing for notifications? And I was like, yeah, these manufacturers, like they got to start using Slack and then they'll want these notifications. I think we've had one customer turn on the Slack integration, but it's there.
We will definitely be one of the ones turning on Slack.
Love it. We get that will double our number.
Yep. It's way better than having people running around the shop count, for X amount of time, hunting each other down and then forget because they get pulled off into something else. It's all these little things that you can find that make you a lot more efficient.
Yeah. Emails. I mean, there's the inbox zero movement. I actually subscribe to inbox infinity. If I didn't see it in Slack, it didn't happen.
And we use, tools like Asana too for some of our projects. It's just having a place for it and automating it in any way, shape, or form. And we use a lot of AI that helps with it, taking it from Asana into the ERP and our production schedule and stuff like that. And it really helps keep the flow going. And everybody's on the same page because everybody has access to it.
Sure. I think I love the word you chose there of flow, right? It's about the constant flow of good information, whatever that means for whatever the business process is. That's what people have to get their head around, is if your information isn't flowing without you having to pick it up and push it or throw it or roll it, carry it down the hall, that's one of the big changes, one of the big attitude changes that we all need to make.
As well as good data going in.
It has to be good, clean data.
Yes.
We could do a whole episode on that one.
And then you can get educated on how to utilize the data.
And then how to make it flow faster because you believe it.
Yep. Once you understand it, you can see the gaps.
For sure. Okay, so every manufacturer, Slack, get some kind of a Kanban board, get information flowing digitally, figure out your winners and losers, and buy better machines. That's it. That's all I got to do. And the rest comes.
And make sure you take your time when hiring, and when they're not the right person for your culture, be quick to make changes, because it does become a cancer within your shop. That is something you've got to be focused on, is your talent as well.
What are you seeing talent-wise, Christina, relative to like with how digitized you are and how people respond to that?
We've had great responses. I mean, again, we've got such a huge range within the generations that are here, and all are embracing it. And I think it's because of how we're explaining it and letting them have buy-in and be a part of it and make a lot of the decisions with us. That helps with that. But I mean, the fact is we are low on talented individuals in our industry. So we need to embrace those that have the correct mindsets and be willing to invest and tool them up. It's hard to change the core of an individual and their mindset. It's easier to teach them the skills.
And how have you woven that together with this full complement of digital tools and your experience in the past with rotating through the different functions that there are to do in the manufacturing environment? Like, how does that come together programmatically?
I'll say one of the things that is really successful with our team here, and that excites them about wanting to help and grow and go to that. We have individuals that still program at the machine, and that is a art. That is a very unique skill set. And sometimes that's not the correct way to go. But when you have the correct individuals in place for training and helping to upskill individuals, then that's a much easier leap. And you got to be willing to take that path and be patient with it to get them to that point, because especially if they have the willingness, the hunger, and the commitment and care for the company, invest, take them and tool them up. And as others see it within the shop, they start asking and signing up for it. We are always encouraging people to speak up when they're wanting to learn something new or have questions about something. And then we take the time to address it and invest in it.
That is fantastic to hear. And I know, as we said at the beginning, you have absolutely been a champion for manufacturing locally, nationally, maybe internationally at this point. We definitely appreciate as a company, as a fellow company that's trying to help with the modernization and the efficiency and unlocking the ability to thrive for manufacturing. We definitely appreciate everything that you do personally with all the different chapters and entities that you're involved with in making that happen.
Thank you. I enjoy it.
I can tell that the level of commitment would not be there if it wasn't an authentic passion. So it's certainly inspiring to see. So Christina, the way that we typically wrap up these episodes is with a philosophical question. And I've been thinking, I'm not exactly sure how to put yours because you had the advantage of, really climbing up very successfully in one industry and then totally moving into another one in manufacturing and realizing that was so much better for you. So I'm not sure which version of Christina I'm going to ask you that you'd give advice to, whether it's the one that first sat down probably behind a desk or in a cubicle in the banking industry, or the one that first set foot on the manufacturing floor. I'll let you pick, because I think the one that first set foot on the manufacturing floor really had a great framework for how to evaluate what really was going to inspire you and motivate you. But whichever version of Christina you want to talk to previously, if you could go back in time, what advice would you give her about what it's going to take to succeed in manufacturing?
I think I'd go back to the banking one. And so I would say, don't be so afraid of change and multiple paths and the variety that is available to us in life, and not to be so single focused, but to really observe everything around and what all the different possibilities are.
That is a very fantastic one, because when you listen to the episode, you would say, there's no way Christina's afraid of change or ever could have been.
But there absolutely was a day. It was very terrifying making that change into a different industry. I was miserable and knew I had to, but again, that's why I started at an admin position. I was definitely scared going down that journey.
Sure. No, I mean, that's what I love about these episodes, and, getting to know people like you even deeper is when you look at the current success someone is having, a lot of people think it's this simple straight line. It was all downhill. It's never that. It's pricker bushes. It's rocky. It's muddy. Everyone's journey is reality. It's not fiction.
Absolutely. And very unique, each one of us.
For sure. So appreciate you sharing everything that you have, Christina. I mean, this episode for me has basically become the blueprint for modernization of precision manufacturing. And I think there are tremendous lessons here for everyone to take, not the least of which is get involved in your local chapters and your local manufacturing groups and get out there and learn what people are trying and learn what people are doing successfully to modernize and keep doing those things and support your peers, because there's plenty of business out there. There's more than enough for everyone who wants to succeed in this industry to be able to succeed. It's not a zero-sum take from others game. It's definitely a win together game. Yes,
and be very supportive of each other. Don't just talk about the change that you want, but be a part of the solution. Be a part of that change.
Love it. Thank you so much, Christina. Awesome getting to talk to you, and good luck with the continued growth and keep changing. I know you won't stop.
Thank you. And thank you for what you and your team do to invest in our industry as well and help. You guys are also champions, and I appreciate every single one of you. So thank you.
Appreciate that. Thanks a lot, Christina. Thank you for listening to Manufacturing Mavericks. If you'd like to learn more, listen to past episodes, or nominate a future Maverick to be on our show, visit mfgmavericks.com. And don't forget to subscribe to and rate this podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, or your favorite podcast app.
Let's be honest. How much are you blowing on scrap and tools that didn't make it to lunch? Yeah, more than you'd ever like to admit on a first date. That's why Datanomix teamed up with the legendary crew at Karen Engineering to bring you TMAC AI, the digital watchdog that sniffs out trouble while your part is still on the machine. It's like having X-ray vision for your toolpath. TMAC AI reads real-time cutting data like it's fluent in CNC Morse code. Flags bad parts before they reach the inspection table because nobody likes surprises. And gives your tools a life coach, telling them when to keep going or when to retire gracefully. Less scrap, smarter tool life, happier shop. Dive into TMAC AI at Datanomix.io and start turning oh no into heck yes.